Well, hello and welcome to the Simplified Organization show, where real moms get together and chat real life and how we are managing the different things on our plates and prioritizing people as we also work on projects. I am your host, Misty Winkler. I write and podcast at simplyconvivial.com, and I'm also the author of The Convivial Homeschool, Gospel Encouragement for Keeping Your Sanity While Living and Learning Alongside Your Kids. And today, my guest and friend joining me today is Molly. Molly and her husband, Ben, have two homeschoolers that will be in 9th and 10th grade next year. From the time that her oldest started preschool, Molly has been working 20 to 30 hours a week while homeschooling and has been through many ups and downs of that family, work, homeschool life balance. So that's going to be the focus of our conversation today, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Molly on that. So welcome, Molly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what's on your plate right now?
Well, we are getting ready to do a big project for work. And so I actually did work this morning on a Saturday to prepare for it because I really needed to. So I did that. And we're doing some yard sailing today was a big thing. Our son turns 15 tomorrow. So we're doing a bunch of trying to redo his room a little bit for a more mature room since he's now going to be 15. So yeah, big project for work and trying to also celebrate our son's birthday. And yeah, so it's just life, I guess.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've been working and homeschooling kind of that whole time, that covers a lot of seasons of life. And I bet it looks different during different seasons and ages of kids and summer and school time. And it's a lot, because homeschooling is also at least a part-time job, if not a full-time job. So when you add on that, I'm sure you experienced a lot of overwhelm at different points in time. So
yes, for me, for sure, at the very beginning. So I used to be a photographer. I did that for 15 years. So I kind of was able to make my own schedule. So I would work on the weekends. And then throughout the week, I could do my own work when I wanted to. Truthfully, I did a lot of my work at 1 a.m. in the morning, editing photos. It's just how my life was. I'm a night owl, so it worked for me. And so when they were younger, we would drop the kids off at grandma and grandpa's, all day Saturday and part of Sunday, and we would shoot and do it. So the biggest challenge then was feeling like I had a life outside of work or homeschooling, because pretty much that takes up all the time between that and going to church. So in those younger years, it definitely felt a little bit lonely, because I think a lot of toddler moms and that young age group, they feel lonely a lot, when they're with home all the time. Yeah. So when you're home all the time, but then you're working, I was working with brides who I would see once in my lifetime and never again. I wasn't working with coworkers or anything. It felt lonely at times. And so so that was definitely a big challenge. And the overwhelm for me was a challenge. And obviously the number one issue all moms face are getting their house clean all the time. So it's like, it's never ending. The laundry is always in your back of your mind and everything. And so early on, I decided to drop my pride, I guess, of feeling like I absolutely had to be the one to fold the socks. and decided to actually hire some teenagers from our church to clean our house once a month. Nice. And there was 3 teenagers who, they were all like siblings, would come over once a month and deep clean my house top to bottom. And it was worth it to me because, but for sure, as a Christian woman who believes my place is in the home, it was hard to feel like I was doing my job when I was hiring it out to someone else. But at the end of the day, my husband was like, it's fine. You love photography. You're not hiring out all the other things. You just need someone to fold your socks for you, And so we did that. So that was a great season of our life when the kids were too young to help clean, those toddler years and everything. So,
and those messes get so big so fast.
They do. They get so fast. And I only have 2 kids. I can't imagine if I had 4 or 5 or 7. Like my best friend has 7 kids, and I can't imagine what that would be if it was even possible, to be able to also work when I only had 2 kids versus 7,
Mhm.
But I definitely felt overwhelmed. And so that was one thing that took a big thing off my list, is being able to let someone else clean my house for me. But I did it cheaply by having teenagers do it. Instead, and that was good, and they were happy.
Exactly. Yeah. They have a service opportunity. I mean, they're being paid, but they're learning good skills and they're getting experience outside with someone else. So it really can be a blessing all the way around.
Yeah, it was really great. Yeah.
So then how about as the kids got older? I know that your work changed, and then it's just different when kids are older.
Totally. Yeah. So as the kids get older, I immediately started having them make their own lunches, even though it's homeschooling, they make their own lunch. They do their own laundry. Probably by the time they were 9, they were doing their own laundry. But I think a big thing for those years too, especially, is I think a lot of moms say, yeah, I let my kids do their own thing, but they still micromanage the kids. So it's like, you get to do your own laundry, but I'm going to tell you exactly how you have to do your laundry. And if you don't do it exactly how I expect it to get done, even though I'm asking you to do it yourself, then it's no good, And I just decided that if I'm going to let things go, I also need to let them do it how they want to do it. It's like, I have a twin sister, and her and I do so many things opposite. We were raised in the same house. We are twins. We even shared the same bedroom until we were 15 years old. And yet we do everything drastically different, down to just like everything in life is completely different. She's even blonde hair and blue eyes. Like she doesn't even look like me. And so that's when I kind of realized around that age, again, when it comes back to being overwhelmed, is you're trying to hand off jobs to your children, but then you're expecting them to do it exactly like you do it. And I just decided, no, if they want to dump all of their laundry in, whatever, they're doing their own laundry. They get the consequences of doing their own work, which is if their clothes turn out pink, they turn out pink. It's no skin off my nose. So I think that was another thing that really helped with the overwhelm, is just letting it go, like who cares how they, like, the funny thing is now that I have almost 15 tomorrow, 15 and 13 now, is my daughter argues with me about how I load the dishwasher now. Like she tells me the other day, she's like, Mom, that is not where the dishes go, because they do pretty much at this stage of the game, they pretty much do all of the dishes all of the time. That's just one of the things they do as part of me working. And so when I was doing the dishes for the first time in a little while, she started arguing with me. And I was like, listen, when you were 10 or when you were 7, I didn't tell you how to do the dishes. So now you have to give me the same grace for my own house in my own dishwasher. But yeah, so that's how it changed. Yeah. And then as we got older, I decided that I wanted our weekends back, because the kids are getting older and they are to the point where they want to do stuff on the weekends, and they're old enough to care. 7-year-old doesn't care if it's Saturday or Tuesday, but a teenager does. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to move on from photography to another job where I could sit at a desk throughout the week in my home, and we could take our weekends back. And that was great. So now being a marketing manager now for Veritas Press is great, because now I get to work from home still. And I work, almost full time. But again, I get to split my hours. So I work in the morning, and then I homeschool in the middle of the day, and then I work in the afternoon. And I still have Saturdays to go yard sailing. So it's good,
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And being willing to flex the time and find that position or job that fits the life overall. Sometimes I think we pick the work or pick projects, something other than the family, and say, okay, everything else is going to flex around this. But it sounds like you really picked, okay, this is how we want our family life to be, and I'm going to find the way to do this that fits around our family.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for a job that allows that, and I understand it's unique. And I frequently have mom ask me like, how can I get a job like you have, whatever. And I say, well, I mean, to a degree, I do have 15 years experience in a real job, wedding photography and commercial photography. And so I have a lot of experience. I went to college, whatever. So it's not exactly like picking up an at-home sales thing that doesn't require certain skills or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think, so for moms, you have to actually, people ask me all the time, like, how do you get your job that you have? I said, well, first you upload your resume to LinkedIn, like it's a real job. It's a real job. It's not at-home sales or anything. Anyways. And so I just think that, that's the thing for moms. If they want to work from home, they really have to, like, if it's a real job, then it's a real job. So you need to do your resume, and also you have to treat it like a real job. And I think that's also where overwhelm comes in for moms who also work from home, is they treat their job sometimes more like a hobby. And then they feel like their job is very flexible because they want to make their children the priority. But when it's work, even if it's at home sales, or, an MLM or anything like that, even, your job is your job and you need to focus on it. And then when you're not focusing on your job, then you focus on your kids. But if there's too much flex, either way, it gets way too muddled, and that's where you get overwhelmed. So one thing I always say is that I make my family a priority by showing my kids my work ethic, because I think that's something that they really see. And even yesterday, so like I said, we split our schedule. So the kids do, 70%, now as teenagers, 70% of the work they do themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I stick around to help them with logic and rhetoric because that requires conversation. and also I still read aloud to them, even as teenagers. I still read aloud. And also our Bible time, I want to do that discussion with them. So those are the main subjects I do with them. And then foreign language, we have to actually talk to someone in a foreign language. So we do that together as well. But those are the main subjects. Everything else they can do by themselves, or math with dad. And even the other day, I was like, oh, you guys, I had a meeting scheduled, happens now and then in the middle of our homeschool time. And my kids just go, well, yeah, mom. I was like, I got to stop. I have to go to this meeting. Sorry, guys, we'll pick up when I'm done with this meeting. And my daughter was just like, yeah, mom, you got to work. Like, you need to show up for work, And I think that's a much better lesson to have than kids thinking that mom will always quit everything else for their kids. I think it's a good lesson for the kids to know my life doesn't totally revolve around them. So that's kind of where the overwhelm can happen as well, is if you allow either to flex too hard, either way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
because then you end up thinking about both of them at the same time. So you're like carrying too much in your head all the time, instead of saying like, this is my time here and this is my time here, which isn't possible when they're all little and they do need you at all times. But when they are older, it's great for them to be able to take responsibility for the dishes. I think that's the kind of thing that it's not just because you work, but also because it's a great opportunity for them to have that responsibility.
Oh, totally. And I think there's a lot of really great things that have come from me being so hands-off, which again, I think overwhelm can come, especially for homeschool moms, when they really feel like they have to be hip to hip with their kids all the time, just right next to them all the time, teaching them things. And that's just not possible as a working mom. So like even today, my daughter was baking a strawberry pie for the very first time. And I'm, in my office doing some work, and I can hear from the kitchen, she's like, why isn't this turning out? Why are we doing this? And she's having to learn, she didn't, gelatin, you can't just you have to slowly pour in the gelatin, otherwise it clumps. And I walked, I go out there and it's just this massive clump because she had dumped, but like part of me is like, but that's a lesson she's going to learn. If I had been side by side with her, she might not have learned it, but I think it's going to stick out in her head more, and she's not going to make that mistake, because now she has this pie that she was making for grandma that she's going to have to remake now, So I think there's a lot of really great ways that kids can be independent that they learn just as well, and again, that goes back to the overwhelm. I'm not sitting here worried about the pie that Adelaide's making. And at this stage of the game, you get very overwhelmed. Like you said, it's either you're sitting here working and you're thinking about what they're doing, or you're out there thinking what emails are coming in that I'm going to have to answer as soon as I'm done. And, you just can't worry about it,
If you know a mom who's trying to juggle many life responsibilities like Molly, then pass a link to this episode on to her so she too can be encouraged. You can also hear more from Molly on Instagram, where she is at Modern Homeschooler. She has a great account there on Instagram. And then be sure to tune in for part 2 of my conversation with Molly, where she shares how she keeps up her energy even though she struggles with an autoimmune disorder. We'll also talk about her best time management tactics and how to best delegate jobs to kids. You don't want to miss it. So subscribe and, as always, repent, rejoice, repeat.